must be kicking yourself for not walking out when you could. Bad judgment. But don't you worry, son. It will all be over soon.
Anthony, give me a boy's name that starts with the letter H. Jose.
Bobby, it's me, your daddy, Roberto. Daddy?
Occasionally, you may hear it pronounced as Joao. It depends.
Let's go. Rex Quando.
Look at me now. How far we go back? Elementary, jump rope, hide and go see, pity pat, red light, green light, red light, green light.
Hello? You play to win the game.
What up, everybody? You already know what it is. I am your host, Jose V. This is something new that we are doing tonight. It is Sunday night. We are hanging out from the crib tonight. We are live on all of the major platforms, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook. Go ahead and check out the Facebook page, Straight Bet Sports, on Twitter as well, Jose_Volonte. Even if you search Straight Bet Sports, it'll pop up as well. We are live on those platforms. And, of course, we're live on YouTube as well, baby. We are finally streaming live, doing some uncensored shows. Now, you guys are used to watching me and my co-host Ian B back at the studio on Gorilla Cross Radio, as we do every single Wednesday night at 9 p.m. West Coast time. We appreciate all the love, all the support that we get. But we decided to do something away from the studio to bring in some more people. And not only that, talk a little bit of shit, straight up. Because there's a lot of things and a lot of words that we cannot say respectfully on the network. But here, we're open, we're free. We can say what we want. And we appreciate our sponsor here tonight that is sponsoring this live show that we're going to be doing here on the fly throughout the week. There will be no time schedules. There will be no time frames. We're just going to go live, ladies and gentlemen, chop it up, talk. Today's perfect because NFL, and it was a crazy day in the NFL. Not only NFL, college football, baby. You see, I got the SC stuff. I know one of my co-hosts tonight wants to talk about the SC moves that we had tonight. But without further ado, I want to go ahead and pop these gentlemen in tonight, bring them in one by one. First off, I'll bring in my co-host on Straight Bet Sports Live every single night on Gorilla Cross Radio. He is Ian B, joining me live from his crib right now. And then we also have none other than Winn, sports and radio personality out here in Las Vegas, Nevada. You can find him on Sports X, Fox Sports Radio, K-Don, with Tim Unglesby, Tom Barton, Ken Thompson, Heatwave Sports, all that good stuff. But fellas, I appreciate you joining me here tonight. This is another first episode, as we called it, Straight Bet Sports Uncensored, Chris. We can talk. We can say whatever we want. You can talk shit. We can drink. We can enjoy ourselves. We can have fun, right? That's what it's all about. So go ahead, guys. Welcome. How are you guys feeling tonight? Are you guys ready to chop it up and just have a good time there?
Let's go. Let's go. There's so much to talk about, man. Like, today was crazy in the NFL. I don't even know. Like, I was so wrong about so much today. It blew my mind. But also, we got Lincoln Riley going to USC after the rumors were he is going to LSU. They must have come in with some crazy booster money. I had plenty of people say that it was a done deal as of last night that he was going to LSU. So I know he was denying the rumors he was going to LSU, but the rumors were there. Craziness. How about you, Chris? What do you want to talk about tonight?
Oh, it's good to join you guys Sunday night. I've been having fun since 10 a.m. here on the West Coast, of course, with the early games. And, I've got I had some rooting interest because I had some tickets out there, like I'm sure you guys did. And, it's been a great Sunday for me from a betting standpoint because I think I partake too much in parlays, and the parlays were just not swinging great today because there was the occasional hiccup when it came to teams that I needed to pull things out, and we'll get into the details about it. But always good to join you guys on a Sunday, and of course we're coming out of the holiday weekend, so everybody that was driving back to LA and back to SoCal, just get off the road, just turn around, come back to Vegas for another 24 hours. It's just craziness out there on the roads trying to get back to SoCal after a long weekend.
Yeah, no, I was seeing some of the traffic reports. It was jam packed, like 19, 25 miles. It is crazy. Definitely, if you're going to California, just chill for a while. Maybe go gamble, win back your money that you lost this NFL to Sunday, because it was absolutely nuts. How about Chris Cousins? You see him line up under his guard.
Who?
Kirk Cousins. Did you see that?
Chris Cousins. I'm like, who's
No, sorry. Kirk Cousins, did you see he lined up under his guard? Dalvin Cook actually had to signal him to line up under his center.
Textbook brain fart, right, from Kirk Cousins. I mean, look, I know he's a man of faith, and he's one of those guys who's a big time religion guy. But maybe he went out and had a few too many pops there in the San Francisco area last night, because there was some definitely boneheaded plays that took place with him and the Minnesota Vikings in that game against San Francisco today.
Hey, but you got to admit, man, today when it comes to betting, guys, it was a fun day to bet. I finally got on the Be Connected Sports app. I got away from William and Hill. I'm sorry. I couldn't do it anymore. Be Connected Sports. I know they're not sponsoring us or doing any of that, but just when it comes to the betting standpoint and things of those platforms, I love it, guys. I was betting team totals today. I had the team total on the Bengals over 40.5. That hit right on the number 41. I had the team total over on the Colts 27. They had 24 at halftime and didn't score until their final drive.
Easy money.
It wasn't that easy, but it ended up coming through. That was fun. But yeah, man, I mean, what did you?
By the way, with real quick with Boyd Sports, I haven't used it yet. Are you able to parlay the prop bets, like the player prop bets?
No,
I think you can do them.
At least
all the
apps that I use, you can't. Yeah, they don't allow that just because of the issues you can get in from a technicality standpoint. Yeah, it makes it tough.
Really? Okay, because I haven't used Boyd Sports. I know it's the only app that is allowing player prop bets pretty much across the board. So I wasn't sure if they allowed kind of how like FanDuel and DraftKings allow, where you can just kind of stack odds.
And then also, man, if anybody's watching, I see
that'd be awesome if you could do that. Because it would create all kinds of opportunities and options. But from what I'm aware of, when it comes to the apps and to prop bets, it's kind of limited as far as what you can do from a parlay standpoint. And look, I spent most of the day today. I was over at Red Rock Casino over here. Obviously, the Stations app, and they have it's a Stations sportsbook. So. And then they allow you to parlay halftime. You can parlay quarters. You can do all kinds of things like that. But when it comes to actual individual props with player props regarding yardage, touchdowns, what have you, it's problematic if you try to actually, if they actually could set up some kind of parlay situation with those. It's tough.
So today was crazy, man. It was fun. A lot of news going on. The NFL games were fun to watch. I was at work, so I got to follow as many as I could, obviously, when I got back. And, of course, on my lunch break. Ian, I hit mine. I had the Niners. Niners minus 3.
Yeah.
What was your pick last week?
I don't want to tell you. It's the Vikings. Yes, it was absolutely the Vikings. I'm sorry. Kirk Cousins had an aneurysm. Dalvin Cook got carted off the field. So – and apparently Deebo Samuel is not only an all-pro wide receiver, but he's an all-pro running back. So, I mean, you got to give it to Kyle Shanahan. He is ballsy. You have to be to move someone mid-season from wide receiver to running back of Deebo Samuel's caliber. There's not a lot of coaches that would be willing to do that, and you have to give Deebo Samuel some credit too, because I mean. That's something big with him, and it kind of showed tonight because they are getting an MRI on his groin, so he might be out a couple weeks, and I have to believe that is solely due to the fact that he's getting 20 carries a night now instead of just the normal routes he's running and hope the ball comes to him 10 to 13 times a game.
Dude, but how crazy is that? I have him in fantasy, and I'm sitting there going, how do I have so many points right now when the guy hasn't caught a pass yet? The guy had 2 rushing touchdowns before he even caught a reception today. That's insane.
Yeah,
But
he had six carries for 66 yards and 2 touchdowns. Which,
and not only that, the Niners are getting hot at the right time, man. They're getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, they are. Yeah, they are.
So let's talk about this game. This is the game that I want to talk about because it's the division, guys. It's the division. It's the team right now that kind of fell off for a year because their knight in shining armor took off, right? He dipped out, went to Tampa, won a Super Bowl. But it's the Patriots, man. It's the Patriots. I've been talking about it all season. The Patriots are
look
hot
good
right now. They just beat an 8-3 Tennessee team, which I know it's kind of suspect. You know what I mean? Derrick Henry's out. Wasn't the great, not overall.
Yeah, they're banged up.
Team healthy right now. Exactly. Health-wise, they're banged up.
I would argue. It was a fun game to watch. I would argue with the fact of Tennessee proving the legitimacy of the Patriots only because, like you said, they are banged up. No A.J. Brown, no Julio Jones, no Derrick Henry, no Rashad Evans. No, like they had like 7 or 8 starters out today. So I don't think the Tennessee Titans honestly are going to be healthy enough this year to make a run. They just, it seems like they've gotten the bad injury bug at the wrong time. This is a time where basically once you start getting into this really big injury scene at this late in the stage, like you're not going to be able to recover come time for the playoffs. So, but I do think the Patriots are legit. I think Mac Jones is coming into his own. He's making very smart, decisive decisions. He's getting the ball out quick. That O-line is protecting him the correct way. Belichick is a defensive genius, so they are on track. I think, honestly, they can really quite possibly run away with this division this year.
Yeah, which is basically what I've been saying since the beginning of the season.
And not just the division, possibly the AFC.
We'll see about the AFC, but Chris, what do you think about this game, man? Does this make New England now the official favorite to be the main favorite in the AFC? Obviously, it's making them the favorite to win their division right now, right? But are they the clear-cut favorite, you think, in the AFC in general to come out and be the number 1 seed right now with the way this team is playing? Rookie quarterback does not look like a rookie quarterback. That defense, Ian just said it, lights out. And obviously, it's Bill Belichick. The guy always has top 10, top 5 defenses. You know what I mean? It's nothing new. But what do you think about the Patriots, man? Are they legit so far?
Well, guys, make no mistake about it. This is a burgeoning rivalry in the AFC. It has been since 2019 when the Titans basically ended the Patriots era with Tom Brady when they knocked off the Patriots in the playoffs and took them out in Brady's last game as a New England Patriot. The Patriots hadn't beaten Tennessee since Mike Vrabel took over there in the last 2 years. So this is going to be a rivalry that we're going to be talking about in the AFC. Everyone wants to talk about the Kansas City Chiefs and the Baltimore Ravens and, the teams out of the AFC West that could challenge the Chiefs and the Ravens and these other teams in the AFC. This, to me, proved this game today was really a measuring stick when it came to the Patriots from a defensive standpoint. You get 4 turnovers in this game. You got your 6th straight win for the Patriots. Mac Jones, I mean, I'll be the first to say it. I wasn't sold on him as an NFL quarterback. I did not think that he was worthy of a top 10 pick or a top 15 pick as a quarterback in the NFL. Unfortunately, I felt the same way about Kyler Murray in Arizona, and I have that guy on my face there too as well. This is a Patriots team that has moved on from Tom Brady. Bill Belichick is proving why he is one of the all-time great coaches in the history of the game. And yeah, they're going to be right there when it comes right down to it. And today they just kind of flexed their muscles and showed why they're not going away. And Jose, I talked about this with you. I think I talked with you, Jose, Ian, too, as well, the last time we had the show, on Wednesday night. All the teams in the AFC East are just pissed right now. They're pissed because the Patriots aren't going away, right?
You thought they were done.
The Bills just taking over and just running a rough shot. Not happening, man. It's not going to happen. The Patriots are right there again. They're going to be there throughout the end of this 2021-22 season, and it's just a matter of how far can they go. Do I think they can make it to Super Bowl? Possibly. I don't think they will. I still think that Buffalo's the team to beat in the AFC. But that being said, you have to be impressed with what New England's been able to do, despite the fact that they don't have, the GOAT at the signal caller position that they used to have.
Yeah.
And they basically have a guy who's coming from Alabama, a quarterback coming from Alabama, not named Bart Starr or Joe Namath.
Joe Willie Namath.
Okay.
Yeah.
From Alabama. I mean, that's all I have to say when it comes to that. I mean, it's crazy.
Hey, Mac Jones, 23 of 32, 310 yards, 2 touchdowns. The kid is doing what is asked of him. They're not asking him to come out and win games. They're asking him to just come out and be a game manager, right? They're asking him to do the right things. Don't make the wrong decisions. Don't make the wrong moves. And it's working out for him, man. I'm a Jets fan, guys. Come on now. I'm a Jets fan here, and I'm talking good about these freaking guys.
Hey, by the way,
are you kidding me right now?
Great win today. Hey, great win today, man. Zach Wilson was shaky, obviously, is his first day back, but you guys got it done. I got to give you your props for that.
Hey, you got to do what you got to do sometimes, but I don't think Zach Wilson's the answer just yet, man. You still got a long way to go for sure.
Hey, you give him an O-line and you give him quality receivers, and I think he'll be just fine. I think you got to give him some time.
Hell, Zach Wilson is a dumpster fire, bro. Did you see that play that he did early in the game where he ran the line of scrimmage and freaking just, let me throw the ball away?
I'm sorry, that guy.
Let me just ask you.
The guy was the number 2 pick in the draft. You can't bail on him yet. You can't.
Jose, let me just ask.
Sam Darnold, number 2 or 3 pick in the draft too, and the guy's trash now. Come on.
Yeah. Let me just ask you this: how old is Zach Wilson? He's like what, 20? No, he's like 20 years old, man.
Yeah, the guy was born in the 2000s.
He was like, I think he was one of the youngest quarterbacks taken.
Yeah. I mean, you can't Jose, I know, I get it. I'm a Lions fan, okay? I get how Jets fans feel in certain developing situations. I get it, okay? But you can't bail on Zach Wilson that fast. You can't. That'd be like us as Lions fans bailing on Joey Harrington.
He has some decent.
Year 4.
He said,
"You know what I'm saying?
I love it.
We bailed on in year 4, but not in year 1. Year 1, we're like, okay, we're not very good. We don't have really many receivers other than a crack addict,
real quick,
Charles Rogers and some other guys who are just head cases. You know what I mean? But we weren't saying Joey Harrington is a bust after 7 or 8 games. Can't do it, man. You gotta give it some time. And I know it's Jets fans, so it's tough to do.
Yeah. Hey, Donnell. Sorry. You just said that he does have some decent receivers, and that is true. He does have some decent receivers. The problem is none of his receivers are consistent or healthy. So. And he doesn't have the O-line. If you actually watch, he doesn't have the O-line. Mike White has a little bit of experience. You were seeing that he was getting the ball out a little bit quicker, so that O-line didn't have to hold as long. Wilson is still trying to figure out the NFL. I mean, you got to think these guys are pros. These coaches are all-time. They are they know how to disguise coverages that these young quarterbacks have never seen before. So you have to give it time with these guys. Now, saying that, I am hard on Jalen Hurts.
Man, here you go with your Jalen Hurts.
Hey, no, I got to talk about it. This was bad. I got to talk about it. I'm hard on Jalen Hurts.
And Ian and I talked about
because I expect more. I expect more. And the reason why I expect more is because he does flash those he flashes those fast decisions. He flashes that accuracy at times. He flashes that playmaking ability. But the problem is when you really need him to do it, sometimes he just can't, and it's very frustrating. Now, today's loss, he put us in that position, but he also bailed us out. That wasn't completely on him. But he has to get more consistent, and consistency, I think, is what all these teams that are looking for this franchise quarterback, that's what we want. We want the consistency, and it's just we're impatient. We're impatient with our teams being good enough, but not good enough. Like, we see the potential of our teams. That's what being a fan is, right? But the fact is that because our quarterback is still developing, you see the plays left on the table. You see all these times where you're like, that's a touchdown, that's a touchdown, that's a touchdown. But you're not seeing it behind center. You're not seeing it with 270-pound men trying to kill you. So it's easy when we're back here.
To that great run game of yours? What happened to that great run game of Philly that everyone was talking about all week? That was the best run game in the last I don't know how many weeks. What happened? You guys played the Giants.
Okay, I'll tell you what happened. I will actually tell you what happened. So early on in that game, Kelsey, it took the Fox commentators about 20 minutes to even say it. So a lot of people didn't realize Kelsey went out with I believe a knee injury very quickly, like maybe the second or third run play that we did. And after that, you had Nate Herbig, who this man, he's practice squad at best. He's a fill-in at best. And you could see the difference. When we were running it through the middle, we just could not get the holes. Kelsey is huge. And you saw when Kelsey came back into the game, the run blocking just benefited so much. It was like night and day. And not only that, because Kelsey went out, Sanders got nicked up. So we were left with Gainesville and Scott. We actually did have some nice runs, but we were in a hole in our O-line, like our center being banged up, our lead back being banged up. I think Sirianni just felt enough confidence in Jalen that he felt that if he put it in Jalen's hands, he could do something with it.
Ian, so there's Goose.
So Donnell talks about look, Jose. I don't want to jump in on you, but Donnell talking about Philly, right? Having the best. Come on now. We all know who the best running back tandem is in the league. They lost tonight, okay? I was at a watering hole here in Vegas, which happens to be a Cleveland Browns bar, and people were not happy, bro. They were not happy about the loss. They're already bashing Baker Mayfield, want to send him back to Oklahoma, with his tail between his legs. But the Browns have the best running tandem in the league, obviously, with Kareem Hunt and Nick Chubb. That is, it's going to be a combination that's going to get them to the playoffs. I don't know how they're going to do in the playoffs because of how Jekyll and Hyde they are, the Browns are, as far as I'm concerned. But from a running game standpoint, okay, all right. Well, I just want to point that out, Goose, because I thought I saw that and I was like, wait a minute, best tandem.
Actually, and I agree with you, Chris. They do have the best tandem. However, the Eagles, when healthy, have the best run blocking O-line in the entire NFL, which makes our running backs productive. So I agree. Nick Chubb and Kareem Hunt, I do feel are more talented than Jordan Howard and Miles Sanders combined. However, because you have that monstrous O-line, and like I said, when they're healthy, when everything is meshing, you cannot stop them. They're throwing guys around, and they held their own today without Kelsey. It's just that we weren't able to dominate without Kelsey. Kelsey makes that whole line go because it's also a young line. And then also after Kelsey went out, Jack Driscoll, who has been playing phenomenal right guard play, also got banged up. So once Kelsey came back in, you had to move Nate Herbig to the right side, and then they just started attacking the right side. So injuries are a part of the game. Every team has them, but the fact is that, and I said this in my tweet, that I like the Eagles and I like the Colts barring injury. Injuries tend to creep up on the Eagles. This year, I'm not even going to really talk about good luck or bad luck because I just don't want them to get injured more. So I'm just going to shut up at this point, actually. I'm not going to jinx my team like that.
One more point I want to make about that Giants game. How about the throwbacks for the Giants, eh? I was having flashbacks to you guys are young. Both you guys are young. But I was having flashbacks to Mark Bavaro and LT with the Giants on the side of the helmet for New York. That was kind of cool. I thought that was pretty badass to see that. But.
I don't know about flashbacks. I mean, they had 2 DPI calls that weren't called against us on the 2 Hurts interceptions, and then you had 3 touchdowns in the end zone, but 2 in the end zone, 1 right outside of the end zone dropped. So Greg Ward dropped a really bad one earlier in the game, and then in that last drive, you can't excuse it. We picked Rager in front of Jefferson. That will always sting. But you can't, like, if you're a first round, like, at this point, I think there's guys that were picked in the 5th and 6th rounds that are showing more production than Rager, which is it's disheartening to say the least.
Ooh. All right, man.
I'll put it this way. Quez Watkins was a 6th round pick, and he's been more productive for the Eagles than Rager has.
Yeah.
And they're drafted in the same draft. So there you go.
Yeah, if you guys follow Ian's Twitter page, then you know Ian was pretty pissed off today. He was bitching and moaning about it. Wouldn't stop complaining about how they couldn't catch 2 damn touchdowns in the end zone, which I'm not a Giants fan, but I'm sorry. Those should have been caught. Like, there's balls that you need to catch. My son is 5 years old. He could have been in the Meadowlands and would have caught that damn ball.
They hit his hands both times. And not just one hand, but both hands.
Come on now. He's got mitts. Yeah.
Insane, man. Let's see what other game we got. All right, how about this one? It was an afternoon 1:00 game. Packers Chargers.
Colts,
I'm sorry.
right?
I'm sorry. No. Yeah, let's talk about that one. Colts Bucks. I'll give you a little story. 17-14, right? Colts are up right before the half. They get the ball. If you guys were watching that first half, they're driving down. I got the team total. I got 27. Yeah, I'm sitting there going, all right, cool, right? I'm like, cool. They're probably getting a field goal range. We'll be good. It's 4th and goal, Chris, on the 3rd-yard line. I'm sitting there going, you get the ball back at halftime. I'm like, why are you going for it, right? And I'm sitting in the car right before I'm going to get out of the car to get into work, and I'm sitting there watching it. And they go for it, and they get it on the same play with T.Y. I'm like sitting there going, let's go, baby. 24 points, right? So I'm sitting there golden. I need a field goal in the second half to get a push. If not, a touchdown gets me over. These motherfuckers didn't score until 6 minutes left in the, 4th quarter, Chris? You saw that. Right in the 4th quarter, the Colts get their damn touchdown to get to 31 points. And then they tie the game up, which is crazy, but then they let the Bucks just come all the way back down and win that game. Just insane. That was an insane game to watch, man.
Yeah, the back and forth was crazy in the second half. Obviously, the Colts look great in the first half, right? I mean, the Colts look like they're handling their business. You talked about T.Y. Hilton. When the fuck did T.Y. Hilton show up? This guy hasn't been around the whole season, dude. Trust me, I know, because I'm a fantasy football player like you guys are, and this freaking guy was nowhere to be found for weeks for the Colts, dude. And now all of a sudden he shows up. Well, we'll see what happens. I mean, look, obviously the Colts, they got a big win against Buffalo last week. So everyone's kind of, they're kind of the flavor of the week and people are pumped up about them. But now that they take it on the chin this week, we'll see how they respond. I still expect them to be one of the teams that's going to make some noise in the AFC, obviously.
Yeah.
And obviously, Ian's an Eagles guy. We were just talking about Carson Wentz and kind of, opining on him. The guy can play. Is he a franchise quarterback? I mean, I don't know. I mean, he you know what he kind of reminds me of? He reminds me of like guys like Gus Frerotte, and Jeff Hostetler, and
you know what I saw today?
Like a rich man's like Trent Dilfer almost, you're not gonna. He just doesn't seem like you know what I mean though. Like he's not. Look, he can go out and occasionally have the 300-yard game and occasionally throw for 3 touchdowns. And occasionally you can say after a game that he plays with the Colts, oh, yeah, he was the reason they won. But usually, no, it's not the reason they won because he's out there. It's because of other guys like Jonathan Taylor or the Colts defense or anybody else. You know what I mean? So use whatever kind of phrase you want to use for him, game manager, quarterback that just doesn't make mistakes to lose the game, and if he does that, then he can be solid. But maybe I'm just not a big Carson Wentz guy. I don't know.
You know what I saw today though? I saw someone post the Rams Packers game back in the day with Brett Favre and Kurt Warner, right? And Brett Favre threw 2 touchdowns and 6 interceptions in that game, right? And that was a playoff game. So I think franchise quarterback is a little bit skewed. I think people a lot of times they think franchise means you're perfect, right? Like franchise quarterbacks means they win you every game, right? There are definitely games Carson Wentz is going to win you, but there's also games that he's going to lose you.
You know what franchise quarterback is, Ian? Franchise quarterback is a guy that keeps his job consistently. Franchise quarterback is a guy who you look at and you say, you know what? He can have 1 bad game or 2 bad games or 3 bad games, and you still don't even question whether or not he should be the guy. That's kind of the way I think of franchise quarterback. You know what I mean? Like that. There's never any any second where you question whether or not the guy should be out there. You know what I mean? Like that's kind of the feeling I get when I think about the quote unquote franchise guy. You know.
All right, let's see. We got another comment. I think Goose. Let's see what Goose says. Goose is just laughing. So
I agree with you. So we go and talk about Matt Stafford being kind of terrible for the last month.
Hold up. Let's not get into. Let's finish up.
We're talking about it today.
Hold on, fellas. We got some time here. No. But what I'm saying is about the Colts. Even though the Colts lost this game, are the Colts still a team to be reckoned with in the AFC when it comes to the wild card picture? I don't think they're going to win a championship this year or anything like that. But just when it comes to the playoff mix, them getting into the wild card, even though they lost tonight, I believe they're still one of the teams in the hunt from the outside looking in, correct? That can still possibly make one of that 6 or 7 seed there. The way the Colts are playing right now with Jonathan Taylor, Carson Wentz is looking better. I know he had 2 picks today, but he played a whole lot better. Is this a team to be reckoned with moving forward? Who just take it?
Hey, Goose, don't get it wrong. I love Stafford. Just putting that out there. I'm just saying this last month he's actually been pretty bad. That's all. I actually do really love Stafford.
Of course, Goose is here for the Stafford slander. He's a man. Come on now.
Yeah. But going back to that, I agree with you, Jose. I do think that Carson Wentz is playing better. That second pick that he threw was him being a little hero ball, trying to make something happen when it wasn't really there, and trying to win last minute. So, I mean, yes, that's one of his tendencies. That's, a major flaw. That's one of the reasons why he was getting butchered by Eagles media last year. But I do think he's playing a more sustainable brand of football right now. And I definitely think that behind Jonathan Taylor, behind that O-line, I do think that they can make some noise. I think Tom Brady and I mean, let's just say what it was. Fournette was going off today. So, he was breaking big run after big run. He didn't, I think he is averaging almost 7 yards a carry. So Tom Brady didn't look that special today, to be honest. Tom Brady looks like he's, at least this month, he's not been very good either. So I think there's definitely room in the AFC as well as further for the Colts to make some noise, as well as some of these other teams in the NFC. I honestly think there's no team on the AFC or the NFC that should be just a surefire bet they're going to win it all. The Packers look the most solid right now, but that can change at a moment's notice, as we know. I mean, hell, Aaron Rodgers is playing with a freaking fractured foot right now.
I put on the ticker there, is Matt Stafford overrated, or are the Rams just not that good? Goose says he is who he's always been. We know who we're talking about when it comes to Matt Stafford, but
he's been a lead quarterback.
Check this out. The Rams have not won a game in November. If you guys know that, they went 0-for in the month of November. Did not win a game, right? They go on the road today. They were technically a 1.5-point favorite in Green Bay. Green Bay comes out, does what they had to do. Aaron Rodgers, 307, 2 touchdowns. Devontae Adams, 8 receptions, 104 yards. No touchdowns for the guy, but still, great game overall. Green Bay just keeps winning, and they keep winning the right way, and they're beating teams that technically were supposed to be some of the best teams in the NFC, right? If you're talking about the Rams, a lot of us had the Rams high up when the season started, and then when they got Odell Beckham and Von Miller, we thought, oh, this team is going to be great, or at least a lot of us thought. Maybe just me, maybe you guys, I'm not sure, but I'm starting to look at this team like a friend of ours said. I was talking to Sosa the other day. This team is looking more like a team that just has a lot of good name players that were superstars at one point or other, or are good, great players in the NFL, and that's it. But they can't produce, and they're not playing together as a cohesive unit. Would you guys agree with that or disagree with that?
Yeah, so someone said that the Rams are playing fantasy football and the Packers are actually playing real football. So I agree with that. I think that they're struggling right now to make it a cohesive unit. But I do think that I think McVay is the type of guy that he's going to relentlessly try to do that. And it either works or it doesn't. We've seen it before where just too much ego on one team. You know what I mean? And we'll see. I do like what the Packers are doing. They definitely beefed up their defense. Their defense is playing lights out, probably the best that they've played since they won the Super Bowl. And you have Aaron Rodgers doing what Aaron Rodgers does. Now, like I said, whether or not that's sustainable, Aaron Jones has been getting banged up here and there as well. So you got to wonder if any team's going to be healthy come playoffs, because it definitely. I mean, hell, I think Dalvin Cook might have. I think he might have actually sprained or injured his knee again, possibly the same knee that he tore his ACL, because that looked bad. If you watch this still, his right knee is completely like bent behind him. So it was pretty bad, and he had to get carted off the field. So you have to wonder what the health of any of these teams come playoffs going to be.
What you got, Chris? What you think?
Talking about the Rams, I mean, this is a team that, Jose, you mentioned they hadn't won in November. They haven't, but they played some pretty good football teams in November. They lost to Tennessee. They lost to the Niners in San Francisco, in Santa Clara, and then they're obviously in Green Bay against the Packers. The game today, look, Matthew Stafford's never been great in Green Bay at Lambeau Field. It's been a struggle for him regardless of what team he plays for there. So, and look, the rubber's not going to meet the road when it comes to the Rams next week, because they're back at home playing a Jaguars team that they should take out pretty easily. But then they got a matchup, two more division matchups after that, where we're going to get a real measuring stick, obviously taking on Arizona the week after that. And then they play the Cardinals in Arizona. They play the Seahawks the week after that as well, too. And then they have to go to Minnesota to play the Vikings. So, we'll see kind of where the Rams stand there. I mean, I still think they are, in my opinion, when their heads are right, when they're everything above their neck is right. And Jose, you kind of alluded to, not playing as a team, but when they do, I still think they're the best team in the NFC, better than the Buccaneers, better than the Packers, even though they obviously lost in Green Bay today. And there's a lot of reasons for that. I was actually surprised. I was on the Rams today and lost that game. I thought that there was going to be a real issue with Aaron Jones not being completely healthy. He was able to go out there and play decent, and himself, along with A.J. Dillon, obviously in that backfield, were able to be solid for him. But Aaron Rodgers was unbelievable again today. I mean, Aaron Rodgers just throwing perfect passes down the field to Devontae Adams and to all these receivers and tight ends. It was just Aaron Rodgers being Aaron Rodgers. Our friend of ours, obviously Tommy Barton, right, Jose, is someone that just likes to blast Aaron Rodgers. Because look, I mean, maybe there's some bias there because he's a Bears fan. Maybe he just doesn't like Aaron Rodgers. The guy's good. I mean, the guy is just flat out a Hall of Famer, one of the best quarterbacks of all time, and he continues to show it on a consistent basis. And so I'm not going to just slam the Rams too much for losing this game in Green Bay today, but we're going to see sooner than later exactly what the Rams are made of when they take on some of the tougher teams in their division and throughout the rest of the season.
Ian, I know you got to dip out, man. Final thoughts. Me and Chris will keep going.
Yeah, I definitely agree with you. Matt Stafford is a Hall of Famer. If Detroit was able to get him, if Detroit was able to get him any help, to be honest, like on that O line, I definitely feel like you guys would have had a completely different career with him. But I think the slander is unnecessary with Matt Stafford. People expect him to just ball out all the time, and he does. I mean, hell, even today he had that 79-yard touchdown that was absolutely gorgeous, and very few people in the league can even attempt that throw. So you have to give him his flowers. I think people are hard on him because of what the Rams gave up to get him, and they just assumed that there's going to be no growing pains at all during any point of the season. And to be fair, he played lights out up until November, so he gave that expectation a little bit of fuel, to so to say. Mm-hmm. So I think the Rams will get it together. I really do think that they will get it together, and I do think that right now the Rams, and I agree with you, Donnell. I think that the Rams not being able to run the football is definitely something that's detrimental. So I'm going to have to go, guys, and I will definitely catch up with everyone on Wednesday night when we go live in the studio. So,
all right, Ian, take care, brother.
Appreciate you, Ian. Have a great night, my man. All right, Chris, it's just me and you for the rest of the night, brother. We're going to chop it up. We're going to keep it going. We're going to keep talking. I got the lines up here in front of me. I got the games. So we can basically look at this based off of what we've seen, what happened, what the lines were. Let's see. What game should we pull up right here that actually makes some sense? Let's talk about the night game that we just watched, actually, the game that just finished. That was an exciting game to watch, right? A little bit of a barn burner there, if you want to call it that. Not the most high-scoring game as we thought. But Lamar Jackson gets away with throwing, what was it, 4 picks, I believe? Do I have that correct? He threw 4 picks today? Or was that 3?
Which is kind of crazy, right? That they won this game despite the fact that he's, throwing interceptions left and right. I mean, it's crazy. But obviously he pulled off one of his signature scrambles, right, in that third quarter where he bought enough time to kind of, throw that 13-yard touchdown pass to Andrews, which is a big play. This game was a dead under throughout the game, right, Jose? I mean, there was just nobody was scoring any points. Field goals were at a premium almost. And when you're the Baltimore Ravens, I guess, when you have Justin Tucker, I guess that's a good thing, right? And you get the best kicker probably of all time. But, Jackson obviously came back after missing last weekend's win over Chicago with an illness and just didn't have a great game. But the Ravens were still able to win. I don't know what that means for the Baltimore Ravens. They're still able to win a game against the likes of Cleveland, despite the fact that their guy, as a signal caller, doesn't have a great game. That doesn't bode well for the Cleveland Browns. And I'd like to hear your take on this regarding the likes of Baker Mayfield. This is obviously a Cleveland team that has a defense, right? I mean, one of the best defenses probably in the NFL with Myles Garrett and company. But offensively, obviously I've talked about the running game, which I think is stellar. I think it's addition by subtraction with Odell Beckham Jr. not there anymore. But I just don't understand a lot of times what the offensive philosophy is for this team, especially going up against the likes of a Baltimore defense like they did tonight.
I agree with Goose, man. And here's what's crazy. I was a big Baker Mayfield guy, Chris. Remember back when he was in college? That's when you and I first met, started talking a lot of college football here and all that. And I was high on the kid. I was super high. I wanted the Jets to move up. I wanted the Jets to try to draft him if they had an opportunity. It didn't happen. But the guy is not looking good. Now, I understand you're hurt, but you're playing for that contract, right? Isn't that what he's playing for right now? The guy's playing for a contract because he's trying to get paid. You got to play a certain amount of games. You got to be in there a certain amount of snaps. If Case Keenum jumps in and starts a certain amount of games, and I believe if he a certain amount of plays or wins or whatever it is, that's going to take away from Baker Mayfield's money bag. That's all he's playing for right now. And I agree. Like, a lot of people thought that Odell was the problem. Odell might be a problem, but maybe not everywhere he goes. He can still be a guy that's going to produce for you no matter what, right? We know the talent that he has there. A lot of people say that Odell Beckham is just that guy that we saw do that one-handed catch against the Dallas Cowboys, and that's the highlight of his career. No, I think there's a lot more to Odell Beckham than just that. But it's starting to show you now that I'm not going to say Baker Mayfield was the problem, but Baker Mayfield definitely is not the answer. He's definitely is not what's going to resolve the issue that's happening right now in Cleveland. But let's be real, Chris. If we had to right now, who do you replace him with, though? It's easy to say he's not an elite quarterback. It's easy to say he's not a starter in the league. But who do you replace Baker Mayfield with right now? If you say that's it, we're done, we sit him.
All right, so guys, as I pointed out, Jose and Goose, who's on the line here, I pointed out I was at a Cleveland Browns bar tonight, right? Obviously during the game, okay? And a lot of discussion was what you just talked about regarding Baker Mayfield and his contract. What should we give him as a quarterback? You know, what is he worth as a quarterback in the NFL, right? Discussions of, is it $15 million, right? Is it $20 million? People were balking at the fact that, you know, Baker Mayfield making $20 million a year as a quarterback in the NFL. Goose brings up the question of whether or not he's a actual starting quarterback in the league. I think he is. You know, obviously, Jose, you kind of touched on it. He's been dealing with a lot of injuries this year, okay? Yeah. Whether it's his non-throwing shoulder, whether it's his knee, the guy's banged up, okay? So I'm not going to sit here and just blast away at him and say that, you know, he doesn't have any talent and he shouldn't be in the league. There was a lot of discussion tonight among a lot of Browns fans that they're not too happy about his off-the-field type stuff. They're saying you're doing too many commercials. Your focus isn't on football. It's on a lot of other stuff. You know, you got a lot of other stuff going on, Baker, and you should be focused more on winning us a Super Bowl, right? I mean, the Browns fans, and I'm sure the Browns organization, that's what they want. They want the guy to win a Super Bowl. And so, and maybe there's a opinion among Browns fans that he's not, you know, in that realm, that he's not being that guy. So, the number one pick, I mean, it's interesting that comes up because a lot of times the number one pick, you're not necessarily worthy of the number one pick. You just happen to be, you know, the team that happens to pick there has a need and they need to either pick that position, whether it's, and a lot of times obviously it's quarterback, right? Because these teams are atrocious and they're looking for the next franchise quarterback. So that's what happens there. And you can look down the line of all the number one picks overall in the NFL, especially quarterbacks. They're not all Peyton Manning, right? They're not all Andrew Luck. They're not all Trevor Lawrence, right? They're a lot of times they're number one picks and they're not all, even like a Carson Palmer, right? Carson Palmer, great career, you know, a guy who a borderline Hall of Fame career, I guess. Maybe not Hall of Fame career, but you kind of understand my point. A lot of times the number one pick, it doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be, you know, this all-world player. It just happens to be where that team needs to draft that position at that time in that era, you know. And so that's kind of, I think that's kind of came into play when it came to Baker Mayfield and this team. So, but that being said, I mean, it's again, I go back to the injuries. I go back to the circumstances surrounding this football team. I mean, Jose, full disclosure, I put a little bit of coin on the Browns to win the Super Bowl this year. I put a little bit of coin on it. Don't think it's going to pan out, obviously, at this point, given the circumstances surrounding this team and surrounding the AFC. But they were one of the teams, Jose, you, Goose, a lot of us, there was a lot of chatter about this Cleveland Browns team going into the season in the AFC, and it was mostly positive. It was mostly, you know, yeah, this is a team that's going to absolutely make some noise when it came to this conference and when it came to playoff time.
No, I know. We talked about it earlier in the season before the season started. It was crazy to think that we're talking about the Cleveland Browns being a favorite in the NFL this season or a favorite to win anything. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like, granted, on paper, they had one of the best teams coming into this season, right? Best running game that's looked like, which you got Nick Chubb, Kareem Hunt. You had Jarvis Landry, which keep in mind, Jarvis Landry has not caught a touchdown pass this season. Keep that in mind. That's a crazy stat.
That's crazy.
He has not caught a touchdown this season. Okay,
that's crazy.
But just think about that. You had Odell Beckham, Jarvis Landry, Kareem Hunt, Nick Chubb, Baker Mayfield, which a lot of people thought this guy's the savior at quarterback for Cleveland. You got a monster defense with Jadeveon Clowney coming in. You got Myles Garrett. I mean, solid stacked all the way around, right? So now it makes you wonder, is it the coaching staff? Is it really Baker Mayfield? Is it really the players? What is it that's not working there? Because what happened with Baker when you had Hugh Jackson? I don't want the guy. I don't like the guy. Get him out of here. I want Freddie. Okay, you got Freddie. It didn't work with Freddie. Now they bring in another guy with Stefanski, and it's looking like it's going to work, but then it doesn't. And then you have all this high praise going into the NFL season, Chris. I'm talking about everywhere you saw, everywhere you looked, everywhere you listened, ESPN, Fox Sports, whatever it was, national, local. Everyone talked about the Cleveland Browns like they were like, okay, they're back. They're finally the Cleveland Browns of the old days with Bernie Kosar, freaking Vinny Testaverde, and all these guys, right? But it's like, no, they're not so far. And it's funny because it's not really shocking if you think about it, Chris. It's the Cleveland Browns at the end of the day, right? Like, are we shocked that they're in this position? No. Would we be shocked if they had a better record? No, because a lot of people thought that they were going to be better than they are right now. But what is the issue? What is the issue here?
Jose, I'll sum it up for you in one word with the Cleveland Browns this year. Inconsistency. Okay? Inconsistency. It's flat out right. Look at their schedule. Dude, look what they've done this year, right? They win a game against the Chargers they lose a game to the Chargers like 47-42. Then the next week they get blasted by the Cardinals. Then the next week they knock off the Broncos. They end up the week after that they lose to the Steelers. Pittsburgh. We all know what Pittsburgh is this year. They lose to the Steelers the week after that. Then what happens the week after that? They destroyed the Cincinnati Bengals. Destroyed them. They won like 41-16 the game after that.
Killed a lot of people's tickets.
Okay?
A lot of people's tickets.
Inconsistency, in a word, is what this Cleveland Browns team has been all year long. And we've seen what's transpired here lately. They lost to the Patriots by like 40. You know what I mean? And then by the way, they beat the Lions 13-10. All right, 13-10. Okay, they beat the Lions.
The best team in the league. The best team in Detroit, right? The best team in Detroit, right, Chris?
Yeah, 100%. 100%. I don't even want to talk about that game on Thursday. It was just a disgrace.
How about this? We're going to talk about the team at least. How do you feel about your head coach? How do you feel about the head coaching position there in the Detroit with that going on?
I think that
talk about that, Chris.
I think there's a lot of positivity when he first came in because he's a guy who has a solid footing getting as far as his initial coaching career, right? He's a guy who's been an assistant in Miami. He's been in places where they've been respectable. They've been decent. And us as Detroit Lions fans, as well as the organization and as well as the Ford family, who's owned the team for decades, wants to look at everything from a glass half full perspective, Jose, right? And I'm sure it's much like the fan base in New York with the Jets. I'm sure it's much like the fan base in Cleveland with the Browns. The Browns haven't been relevant since the 80s when they were in the AFC Championship game back in the 80s, right? And this is a franchise that lost their team to Baltimore and came back. The Lions have been an exercise in futility for a number of years. You look at the coaching history of this team, right? And from the days that, I go back to the Monty Clark days of the 80s, and then obviously the Wayne Fontes era in the 90s where they actually won some games and actually won a playoff game with Wayne Fontes as the head coach. And they got to the playoffs a lot in the 90s, despite the fact that there's this kind of narrative out there that during Barry Sanders' career, they were just awful most of the time. It wasn't true. They were a playoff team basically every other year. Five of the 10 years that Barry was in a Lions uniform, the Lions were in the playoffs. Now, they lost every time in the first round to the likes of Green Bay and Philadelphia and the Niners and so on and so forth. But it was a team that was respectable. And there was always optimism, obviously, when you have one of the greatest running backs of all time and you had an offense that was explosive with Scott Mitchell and those guys. It was a team that was good. But again, from the coaching standpoint, I'm talking about once Wayne Fontes left, Bobby Ross took over as the head coach, and then it went through basically just a just a run of the mill. You know, brought in obviously Steve Mariucci into the mix. You had Jim Schwartz, Rod Marinelli, Gary Moeller, who was the coach at Michigan, who coached it for the Lions for a little while. It was just, I mean, but the problem with that era, and the era I'm talking about is between the late 90s and early 2000s, is that Matt Millen was at the helm, right? Matt Millen was the general manager, and you could argue that Matt Millen is the worst executive in the history of sports, not just the NFL, right? Not just the NFL. And Goose brings up, so now let's fast forward to, don't even get me started on the Jim Caldwell thing. That was ridiculous that the Lions even let him go. He was the one guy, they were in the playoffs, right, with Calvin Johnson and Stafford and those guys, and Javid Best, and you know, a solid defensive team as well too, with Ziggy Ansah and these guys. They were a solid team. And they were, you know, and they lost the Cowboys in the playoffs, obviously. But it was a respectable team back in the early 2008 to 2013-ish, right? They were a good team. But once Jim Caldwell left, again, we went back into the doldrums of coaches. And as Goose just brought up, you know, the quotes, and it was kind of the quotes with Dan Campbell here early on last year, talking about he wants to bite the kneecaps off and all this kind of stuff going on.
There you go, Chris. There we go, Chris.
Wayne Fonts, the Hawaiian shirts. It's like he's in the Pro Bowl every game, right? But these are like regular season games. This guy's wearing shirts like that. It's good stuff. And Wayne Fonts, Wayne Fonts is a personality. Okay, not only was
I loved watching him as a kid. Loved him.
No, he was a solid coach because he could deal with the personalities like the Herman Moores, right? Like the Chris Spielmans, like the Berries, you know, and at the time, they went to the NFC Championship game in 1991. They lost to the Super Bowl champion Washington Redskins.
Wow.
Yeah. So, I mean, he was a guy he was a solid head coach for the Lions. And Monty Clark was a good head coach too, by the way, back in the 80s. And you're right, Goose. I mean, look, Jim Caldwell should have never been let go. I can't remember. Did they even fire him, or it was just they didn't re-up his contract, or they just let him go?
I think they let him walk. I think it was, yeah.
Yeah, they let him walk, and then the Matt Patricia era was just a joke because nobody respected him because he was one of Belichick's guys and
disciples.
Again, Belichick assistant coaches. Mike Vrabel, I guess he's okay. Other than that, they've all been a disaster. You know, so, and even a couple of them come back to coach with the Patriots because they've been so bad as head coaches somewhere else. So, but to fast forward to Dan Campbell again, and Goose brought up, look, the quotes are great. You can be a rah-rah guy, okay? But if you don't have the credibility and you don't have the plan, right? If you don't have a plan and a way to execute it, and that combined, Jose, with the fact that the Lions, from a personnel standpoint, have been dealing with injuries. Jeff Okudah, their number 3 pick overall last year, got hurt, which is detrimental to the defense. They had some good draft picks, but and then you lose players like Darius Slay, who was their best cover corner, one of the best cover corners in the league, and he goes to Philadelphia. And you know, so you have personnel transactions, and you have an apathetic ownership where you have, you know, I don't even know how she's like the niece or the daughter-in-law of William Clay Ford. It's just, the whole thing is just, it's really I'll use the word that Ian used earlier. It's disheartening. Okay. It's disheartening as a Lions fan, because this is a Detroit franchise that gets support. The Lions fans, myself included, we're not going anywhere. We're going to our graves as Lions fans. Jose, you're a Jets fan. You probably feel the same way. Okay. We are going to our graves as Lions fans. And it's tough to be a fan of a franchise. It's exactly like, and yourself and Goose will probably can relate to this. It's exactly not because you're a fan of this team, just because you understand sports. It's exactly like like being a Clippers fan, like being a, you know what I mean? Like being a Sacramento Kings fan. You know what I mean? Like, it's just, you know, you're not going to win. And it doesn't look like there's any rainbow on the horizon. You know what I mean? Like, it just doesn't feel like you have a chance.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it's like to be a Lions fan. And it doesn't look like he's look, I just turned.
You're preaching to the choir, my man.
I just entered my 5th decade. Jose, I don't think I'm going to see a Lions Super Bowl. I don't think I'm going to see it.
Nah, you think
and
so?
I probably feel like Red Sox fan. I probably feel like Red Sox fan too. Back in 1997-ish, right? I probably feel like Red Sox fan who was like,
what do you think?
I'm not gonna ever see it. Never gonna see it. And that's kind of the way I feel about Detroit Lions football right now.
You think?
And Dan Campbell's not gonna, so to round it out, Dan Campbell's not going to change that, Jose. He's not. He's going to be gone after probably next year because they have a very good possibility of going. They have a. This is so ridiculous. They have an opportunity to be the first ever 0-16-1 team in NFL history. All right. They've already tied the worst record in NFL history when Rod Marinelli was the coach back in 2008, and they went 0-16. Same as the Cleveland Browns in 2015 or whatever it was. And the same as the same as the Browns. And then obviously Tampa Bay went 0-14 back when they only played 14 games. They could be the first team that goes 0-16-1. It's just pathetic. But I guess we own it. We own it as Lions fans. And it's tough. It's tough being a sports radio host in Vegas. Myself, Clay Baker, Brian Feldman, to an extent, Bernie Fratto, who covered the team for a long time.
Yeah.
It's tough. Mike Price. I mean, there's just a lot of us that are like, that's our team. Nothing we can do about it.
Who do you think gets the Super Bowl first, though, Chris? Because you say you don't think that the Lions are going to get one in your lifetime, right? That's what you're telling me.
I mean, right now,
do you think the Jets get one? Do you think the Jets get one in your lifetime? Do you think the Jets get one in your lifetime?
No, not from what I see now. No. And there's no reason to believe. But Jose, there's no reason to believe. Why would we believe that the Jets or the Lions would get there? I mean, there's no blueprint right now, right, Jose? Like, we're not looking ahead 2 years, 3 years, 5 years. We're not saying to ourselves as Lions or Jets fans, oh yeah, we got these young kids coming in. It's not like baseball, right? Where you got guys who are in the minors who are going to be studs, right? And these guys, they're going to turn our franchise around, or guys in the NBA draft where like, we just drafted, guys who are going to be difference makers in the NBA, and it only takes 1 or 2 guys, sometimes 3, to win an NBA championship. It's just not that way in the NFL, right? And we don't have any indication as Detroit fans or Jets fans, or quite frankly, even the Jaguars. Yes, I like Trevor Lawrence. I think he's going to be a good quarterback in this league, but they're going to need much more than Trevor Lawrence to win a Super Bowl in Jacksonville. And oh, by the way, the Jags haven't won anything ever. Okay. Yes, they've been to some AFC championship games with Mark Brunell and Jimmy Smith and Fred Taylor, and they've had some teams.
Man.
But the Jaguars are in the same boat as the Lions and the Browns and the Browns not so much. See, the Browns, there is a ray of hope, because the Browns have a defense. The Browns have Nick Chubb. They have Kareem Hunt, who's still kind of in his prime. And they have Jarvis Landry. I think the guy's decent, So they do have some hope. But the Jets, are you looking at Johnson right now in your backfield? Who, by the way, I had in fantasy today and he laid an egg. But are you looking at what do they have as far as running? They don't have Curtis Martin. I know that. They don't have even Wayne Corbett, okay, at the wide receiver position. They don't have Chad Pennington.
Lavernius Combs. They didn't got none of them guys.
They got none of those guys. So to answer your question, no. Right now, there's no reason to have optimism. Does it mean that it's impossible? No, absolutely. They could, maybe in 5 years, right, Jose? The right draft moves are made and things change, and Lions ownership figures things out, which they haven't been able to do for like 5 decades, but whatever. And the Jets ownership figure things out, and a couple magical draft picks come in, and guys who are superstars emerge for these franchises, then yeah, I guess they could win it. But right now, there's no indication that that's the case, and there's no indication that those franchises are going to be anywhere in the mix as of right now.
So we're chopping it up with Christian Winn, Jose V. If you guys follow us, you already know what I do. Straight Bet Sports every single Wednesday night on Gorilla Cross Radio Network, 9 p.m. West Coast time. Chris, let everybody know what you do as well before we continue on tonight, my man.
Yeah, I'm all over the radio down here in Vegas. I'll be doing Ken Thompson's show, SportsX Radio. I'm actually going to be on the Vegas Take next week for 2 days on Thursday and Friday, and talking everything from politics to entertainment to sports, Jose. So a lot of you that are on the web here, you understand, and I can swear, so I probably will, because a lot of times doing that politics show fucking pisses me off. Because
there we go. There we go.
Say it, Chris. If you ever do listen to the show that I do over on KDWN here in town, we do talk a lot of politics, and I'm a lefty. I mean, I'll admit it, I'm a lefty. So and that station is righties all over the place. So you got Donald Trump people, you got just lunatics, you got the QAnon people, and they kind of embrace that over there because that's the station. It's a conservative radio station. So a lot of the hosts over there are conservative. Myself, Brian Shapiro, and a couple others aren't. So we kind of go against the grain. And so it makes for good radio if you want to listen, because we'll be dropping a lot of, I'll be insulting people and blasting people and but I don't just do it straight out of nowhere. I do it, from a intellectually honest standpoint. Let's put it that way. And not afraid to opine on my political beliefs / beliefs regarding entertainment, and then obviously, as you know, sports. So, and I've been talking sports in Vegas for the last decade plus. So it makes for fun radio, and so I'm all over it. And then, of course, as you, Jose, you and I, we get a chance to jump on a lot with the guys over at Heatwave Sports over on Fox Sports Radio, where I was for a lot of years. I did the show on ESPN Radio as well as Fox Sports Radio. I hosted the show with Ed Graney as well as Seat Williams and Mitch Moss, Clay Baker, a number of people over there. So it's been a lot of fun for me here in Vegas for the last since about 2010, getting a chance to talk sports in this great town that has just emerged into one of the best sports cities in America. And that's just not a biased take on my part. That just happens to be the fact, where we went from a city that had UNLV football and the Las Vegas Gladiators Arena Football League team and the Las Vegas Wranglers in the ECHL to now we have an NHL franchise, obviously in the Golden Knights. We have the Las Vegas Aces out of the WNBA. Obviously, the UNLV teams are still here. The Aviators, as far as AAA baseball, and now, of course, the Las Vegas Raiders in the NFL. I mean, it's quite frankly, I'm not saying anything that you guys all out there don't know, and Jose, you don't know. It's been astounding what this town has transpired. What has happened in this town in the last decade has been pretty remarkable, and it's been kind of cool to kind of see this all from the ground floor and to be a part of it.
So, Chris, let's talk about some college football, because obviously we got some news going on. You already see the sweater. You already see what I have on. As you see below on the ticker, Lincoln Riley has dipped out and told Oklahoma, I'm gone. I'm going to Southern California. I'm going to try to restart this program, re-energize this program. Now, in the wake of all of that, of him basically saying, fuck you, Oklahoma, I'm out. I'm afraid of the SEC, because a lot of us know Oklahoma's talking about moving into the SEC. So people are saying they're afraid of the SEC. They're afraid of Alabama. I don't think that's what it is, right? But also, the biggest thing that happened today, they lost a 5-star recruit quarterback in Malachi Nelson, the number 3 ranked prospect in ESPN's Junior 300 class for 2023. He decommitted from Oklahoma on Sunday night one of 4 commitments that have basically said, I'm out once the news broke that Lincoln Riley took off. Now, Chris, I'll be honest with you. As an SC guy, born and raised in Southern California, I grew up less than 10 minutes away from the Coliseum. If you see my arm, you guys already know I'm a SC fan through and through. I'm happy for the hire. I think it's a good hire. You're finally going away from the guys that were part of that same tree, the Pete Carroll and all these coaches that were underneath the same type of coaching carousel. You see what I'm saying? That wasn't working. It works for Nick Saban to an extent when some of his coaches leave and they get good wherever they go, right? I like the hire, Chris. We saw what he's done in Oklahoma. Winning in Oklahoma is not as easy as people think. You still need to recruit. You still need to coach. You still need to coach the talent that you're going to get there when it comes to these recruits. You got a lot of young kids that are coming in there thinking they know it all, and they obviously don't, right? And you got to have that type of coach that can handle all of those personalities. Now, the guy's a great recruiter. We know he can recruit out of Texas, Oklahoma, out of all those areas. I think he's going to bring those type of recruits to SC. Not only bring them back. Because remember, when Pete Carroll was here, Pete Carroll would get a lot of guys from Texas, from that part of the country, and would bring them to come out here and play. You see what I'm saying? So I know it's not the same coaching carousel like I'm talking about, and I'm happy that they're going away from it. I don't know if they're going to succeed right away, though, because remember, SC has a lot of stuff going on behind the scenes as well that aren't even happening on the field. Do you like the hire? Do you think he's afraid of the SEC and the fact that Oklahoma might jump into the SEC? Do you think he thinks the Pac-12 is better? Or is it just a better job overall? Or is it about this, Chris? Is it about the money? What is it? What is it about Lincoln Riley that he decided to say, I'm out? Oklahoma is a great program, but I'm out. I'm going to SC.
I do like the hire, but this is something that's been 6 or 7 years in the making, Jose, when it comes to, kind of making a transition for USC. This is a program. Look, I'm someone who's on the outside looking in. You're a USC guy. I'm a Midwest guy, right? I'm a Big Ten guy. But I'm also someone that appreciates a program for what it is. And USC is one, in my opinion, one of the big time programs, one of the name jobs in the country, and that is supported by the fact that a guy who was the head coach at one of the premier programs in the Big 12 is now going to the Pac-12 and to a program that for the past 4 or 5 years they haven't been one of the premier programs in the Pac-12. So that tells you what this means. Now, 6 years ago, obviously, then USC athletic director Pat Hayden, he was a guy who, ushered in basically a few reporters. Nobody cared about USC football 6 years ago. This is far past the era of the Reggie Bush and the Matt, the Matt Leinart and the national championship era. Okay, this is USC kind of just and also ran in the Pac-12, and he announced that the school was putting Steve Sarkisian on indefinite leave of absence, basically, right, because of the issues he was dealing with off the field and in his personal life. And on that Sunday, he announced that Clay Helton would be the interim coach. Now, it was a big-time moment for that program. And what I mean by that is this. I mean, Helton had no head coaching experience whatsoever, right? No head coaching experience at all. And you're gonna be the head coach at USC. That to me was an eye-opener. The reason they hired them is because he had no baggage at the time. He had no baggage, and he was, appealing to the program. And he was a guy that was believed to be stability, affability. They loved that about him. And USC was a program looking to save face, right, after the Sarkisian stuff that went down. So to me, I mean, that was kind of the thing. Now, 6 years later, obviously Helton failed to do that as far as, get the program back to prominence. And so he's gone. And so are Pat Hayden, and his successor, Lynn Swann, by the way. So this has kind of been the story for USC the past 10 years. I mean, it's been musical chairs at the top, while the guy calling the shots on the field is not able to get USC up into that upper level of the Pac-12. I think they can do that with Lincoln Riley. Lincoln Riley brings with himself a pedigree. Okay. Lincoln Riley brings with himself. Lincoln Riley was talked about obviously here in Vegas regarding the Raiders job, right? I mean, they're talking about, Lincoln Riley being one of the prime candidates to be the head coach here because it's not going to be Rich Bisaccia. He's not going to be the head coach. They're going to be looking to move on. So, it's basically kickstarting a new era, right, Jose, when it comes to USC, in my opinion. That's what they're doing. by hiring him here. But with big expectations comes, expectations that you're going to step up, right? And I mean, think about it this way: if the Trojans hire like a less experienced coach, a guy who didn't have really any resume whatsoever, there wouldn't be huge expectations, right? There just wouldn't. The expectations for success will be more or less immediate. If it was a guy that nobody knew about, if it was a young guy who hadn't, who was coming from an Iowa State or from a Troy State or something, you know what I mean? Like a program that was just not a big name program. And, we thought, oh yeah, this guy has potential, but he doesn't have any, Lincoln Riley has experience. He's played in big games. He's coached in big games. He's a guy who's not going to be the moment's not going to be too big for him. And I think that's a big key for him. I think the fact that Riley took this job signals apart that USC is still one of the best jobs out there, right? If he doesn't take the job, it kind of gives you an indication that USC is not on par with the Floridas and the Alabamas and the Michigans and the and the Ohio States. But I think him taking this job shows you that that absolutely is the case. But the immediate expectations are that they contend for a Pac-12 title. Let's be straight about it. The expectations are they're back in the top tier of the conference, and Lincoln Riley is going to be the guy that does that, and that they're even in the mix when it comes to the college football playoffs sooner than later. Now, we all understand that the college football playoff is subject to change, right? Whether it's 8 teams, whether it's 12 teams, whether it's 16 teams, I think it's going to be 8 sooner than later. But that being said, it's all about potential with Lincoln Riley and USC. And I think that it was a great hire. I think it was a great hire. And I think that, because I thought it would be a great hire for the Raiders to get him here, because from a personality standpoint, everybody talks about the flash and pizzazz of Vegas, and we need a guy that can come in here and grab the bull by the horns and be that big personality. Yeah, but I think Lincoln Riley would have been okay in that department. I think he'll be just fine in Southern California, because as of right now, he doesn't have to be the marquee guy, right? It's not him. There's all kinds of other stuff going on in LA right now that is more paid attention to, I guess is the way to describe it, than USC football. And but if Lincoln Riley has success, then they can quickly move up that totem pole, and we could be talking about a Trojan program that is much more in the forefront in the Los Angeles market in the coming future.
I'll be honest with you. I think they're going to be all right. I mean, I'm not going to say that next year will be the year. I'm not saying that they're going to come out and be on fire and be the #1 team or anything like that. But I think they're going to be all right. I think Lincoln Riley will be here for a while. This is definitely not a stepping stone job for him. It's not like he's coming to UNLV to try to get a bigger job or anything like that. You know what I mean? The guy already had a huge job when it comes to Oklahoma. I mean, anyone would want to coach at Oklahoma. You know what I mean? Why wouldn't you not want to coach in that type of conference with that type of team, knowing that every single year you're going to have that notoriety and that expectation of being a top 5 team. And not only that, you're going to get that top 10 notoriety, that top 5 when it comes to the college playoff committee if you're beating these teams, because you're going to have that good strength of schedule that everyone looks at. So I think the fact that Lincoln Riley's coming to SC is a very good thing, a very good hire, not only for the university, Chris, but you mentioned it for the Pac-12. It's going to put the Pac-12 kind of more on the map in a way and give the committee more eyes on the Pac-12. I think they're going to start looking at these schedulings more. Who are they playing? How are they playing? Who are they beating? How are they beating these teams? And hopefully the Pac-12 steps up their game too. You know what I mean? Now you're bringing in a guy like Lincoln Riley into this conference, and now the rest of the coaches are on notice. Okay, we got a guy that's going to come in here and probably start making some noise. He's going to have some players. He's going to recruit. He might take some of our recruits. What are we going to do? So at the end of the day, it makes the Pac-12 stronger, I believe, which is good. It's good for college football. It's a Power 5 conference. It's not good when all you see is SEC all the time. I get it. The SEC teams are good. They're in a great conference. Majority of the teams have technically, quote unquote, winning records, not losing records. I get that. But I think it's great for the Pac-12 more than it is USC as crazy as that sounds. But I still want to get your thoughts before we go, man. I know we've been on here for a minute. It's getting late already. I know you got to get to bed. I got to get to bed too, my man. But college football, right? We're on the topic. As you see on the ticker, I put what I think my top 4 should be. I think right now it should be Georgia, Michigan, Cincinnati, and Oklahoma State. I think you can squeeze in Alabama at 5 or 6. You flip it with Notre Dame there. Obviously, Notre Dame, has the only loss against Cincinnati, which is looking good right now because they're the only undefeated team aside from Georgia in that top tier right there, right? And they lost to that undefeated team. I think you got to take Alabama out of the top 4 right now, Chris, just because of the way that they've looked in the last 2 weeks. The week before that, they won by a touchdown, right? Actually, forgive me if I'm wrong. The 2 weeks prior to that, they only won by 14 points combined, I believe. If that's not wrong, they won by 7 points at the end of each game. And then this last game, they needed overtime to beat an Auburn team that didn't even have their starting quarterback, was hurt. Not doing that good overall as an Auburn team this season as we would have expected them, right? Obviously, it's still the Iron Bowl. We get that. It's still a big rivalry. It's always going to be a tougher matchup than them playing any other cupcake team. But if you look at Alabama in the last 3 weeks of the season, Chris, leading up to this SEC championship game against Georgia, Alabama needs to beat Georgia or else they are completely out. And in my opinion, right now, they should be on the outside looking in on this top 4. Do you agree with me?
I do agree with you, and it's going to play itself out when it comes to the SEC championship game, right?
Definitely.
Because you can talk about us, talk about, I think this team's better or that team's better. You brought up the teams that are 5 or 6. It doesn't matter if you're 5 or 6, right? You're 5 or 6, you're out. You're playing on a New Year's Day game, right? But you're not going to be playing the college football playoff. What's intriguing, though, is what happens if Alabama does beat Georgia in the SEC championship game? What happens to the likes of Oklahoma State? What happens to the likes of Notre Dame, who, by the way, doesn't have to play in a championship game? They're not in a conference. So Notre Dame's going to be sitting back just waiting to see what happens, as far as these championship games are considered. Also, what happens if Michigan loses to Iowa in the Big Ten championship game? Are you going to put a Big Ten team that has 2 losses into the playoff? Absolutely not. So that would mean that Notre Dame and Oklahoma State could get in. If obviously we're assuming, by the way, that Oklahoma State wins the Big 12 championship game, right? So There's still a lot to be decided. We got into it, you and I, as far as Twitter, because you think Georgia's, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but you think Georgia's a little bit overrated. I mean,
let's go for it.
But here's the deal. If Georgia knocks off Alabama in the SEC title game, your list right there is probably going to come to fruition, right? Because, I'm assuming Michigan beats Iowa, right? If Michigan beats Iowa and Georgia beats Alabama, then it's going to be between Oklahoma State and Notre Dame as to who gets into the playoff. And Notre Dame's going to get screwed, right? Because Notre Dame, obviously, they only have 1 loss this year. They're going to have 1 loss, but they're going to get screwed, even though they lost to one team that's going to be in the playoff. You know what I mean? Yeah. So, and there is going to be an eyeball test, and people are going to, they're going to screw Notre Dame, because Oklahoma State is going to have played a Big 12 title game and won the game. And so that's, in my opinion, in my personal, humble opinion, I think the Cowboys should get in over Notre Dame because you played an extra game and you won in the championship game. So, you know what I mean? So how are you, you're going to put Notre Dame in over Oklahoma State after they win the Big 12 championship game? Get out of here. Look, I hear.
Well, Chris, would you be surprised though? It's the committee.
It's the committee. Would you be surprised? Your show, you're probably, there's people that, that text to you on your show and the shows I do this week, and they'd be like, Notre Dame's a better team than Oklahoma State. They belong there. Maybe. But they didn't have to play a championship game. They didn't have to play a freaking conference championship game. They got to sit back and watch everybody else play one. And if the chips fall where they may, Michigan loses to Iowa, Alabama obviously loses
Georgia.
to Georgia, and then Oklahoma State loses. I don't even know they're playing in the Big 12 championship game, but they're playing. Yeah, they lose. Then Notre Dame is going to get in by default. So I don't know. It's so intriguing to kind of see. It makes a lot of fun, doesn't it, Jose? To see what's going to happen in these conference championship games, because they're absolutely vital. And if but I'm telling you right now, if Alabama obviously knocks off Georgia in the SEC championship game, your Final Four right there is going to be jacked up. It's going to be fucked up, because they're going to be, because somebody's getting bounced out. It's probably going to be Oklahoma State. It's probably going to be Oklahoma State, and then that's just going to be the way it's going to be. Even though,
and not only that,
like you said, Alabama escaped with that win. Jose, you weren't there yesterday. We were at the UNLV UCLA game, right?
Yep.
In the press box, not in the press box. We were watching the game. In the press room after the game. The game ended. It was going into it was late in the fourth quarter, Jose. In the fucking Alabama Auburn game, and I got my head over Ed Graney's shoulder. We got it on the laptop watching the freaking game. We're like, Alabama's gonna fucking lose this game. They're gonna lose. And it's not going to matter what happens as far as it's going to be either Oklahoma State. We're already putting Oklahoma State or Notre Dame in the college football playoff, right? And then they pull a rabbit out of their hat, win that game, in like quadruple overtime or whatever it was, and so they survived. But to your point that you just made leading into the segment, like they're. Alabama's not the Alabama of the past. You know what I mean? They're not the Alabama of 2018, 19, and every other year since 2010. They're just not. And so I think they're going to lose to Georgia. I just think Georgia's going to lose. I mean, they're going to lose to Georgia. The Bulldogs have one of the best defenses in college football history this year. And I think that's going to make a big difference, and that's why the Crimson Tide are in deep, deep trouble coming up this weekend.
The only reason I say what I say about Georgia is because of past history. And again, you're playing Alabama. You see what I'm saying? You're still playing Alabama in the SEC title game. And Georgia has had those issues, Chris. And I believe not only that, this is the first time ever that they've gone undefeated in the SEC or on their side of the conference. If I do have that, you can look it up. I'm pretty sure I'm not wrong. And they're looking like, okay, they're finally getting over that hump. They're that team. No one has played Georgia close at all this season. That's why it's scary going into this SEC championship game, because we know if anyone can do it, it can be this Alabama team. The only thing that's asinine to me, completely stupid and just fucking utterly retarded, I'm sorry, that Joey Galloway said 2 weeks ago, but not this week when the rankings came out, the week before that. His exact words were to something like, he goes, if Alabama were to play Georgia tight in the SEC title game, which no one has played Georgia close at all this season, and they lose to them in a close game, you still put at 2-loss Alabama over Cincinnati in the top 4. I'm like, you must be out of your fucking mind if you think that's a great scenario.
That's insanity. Yeah.
That's stupid. I understand it's going to sell tickets. I get you want the ratings and you want this and that. But at the end of the day, you're not being fair at that point. It's a complete fucking bias, and you just want Alabama in there no matter what. And this goes back to the year that fucking, remember Alabama, LSU. LSU loses to fucking Alabama after going undefeated or whatever it was. Oh, they both end up in the fucking championship game. What a fucking coincidence. You know what I mean? They always set it up the way that they want to, Chris. That's why I hope, and I get it. It was just 2, and then now they wanted us to expand it to 4, and we went away from the BCS and we went into the college football, and now people want more expansion because they're saying it's still not enough. I get that. But you still have way too many teams in college football that are legitimate, that should have a chance, that aren't getting these chances. That's why we're crying and bitching and moaning about expansion, right? Because we want to see some more of these teams to see if these teams actually have a legitimate shot. Like if we're being real, I wish I had a time machine and we can go back, and I would want to see UCF play Alabama when UCF went undefeated. I still would have loved to see that fucking matchup. Maybe UCF does get blown out. I don't know that, but we never got the opportunity to see that. That's why we need expansion, Chris. Sorry, I was just wetting my whistle a little bit there. I got a little dried up. But yeah, man, it's gonna be fun to see what the committee says because the rankings come out what? The rankings come out
you
this
brought
Tuesday.
up the UCF situation when they're undefeated champions and all that. That was great. But look,
I think Chris having some Wi-Fi issues.
All right. Me personally, I think you should have 16 teams. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You broke up a bit. You're good though.
Did you lose me or no?
No, you're good.
Okay.
You're good.
So I think it should be just like what they do in the lower tiers, i.e. Division 2, Division 3. Have 16 teams, okay? Have a tournament throughout the whole month of December, okay? And into early January. Set it up like that because that way you have an opportunity for the likes of – look, I understand people will say, well, if there's 8 teams, that means the 9th and 10th team will be disrespected. And if you have 16 teams, that means the 17th and 18th team will be disrespected. Cut it off sometime. I think 16 is fine. You can utilize all the bowls, whether it's the Blue Bonnet Bowl or the Cherry Bowl or the Pinstripe Bowl at Yankee Stadium. You can use all of these and have them, have it be a college football playoff, a legitimate playoff, like they do in Division 2, like they do in Division 3 with Wisconsin, Whitewater, and all these schools that all across the country that don't play in the same conferences, okay, but they happen to play in the same division, and you can do it that way. And you can market it where it'd be something that would be a major success, in my opinion. It has to be more than 4 because 4. We've been talking about this all season, right? About how somebody's going to get screwed, and this team deserves it. And this year it's Cincinnati. Maybe next year it's UCF. The year after that it's Houston. And if the Mountain West gets their shit together, other than Boise State, maybe it's like, 1 year it's San Diego State that gets hosed. You know what I mean? Or heaven forbid UNLV, if they ever get back to respectability, like all these conferences, right? The Sun Belt, Coastal Carolina, right? Last year had a great year. Last year, Coastal Carolina was awesome. There's just so many opportunities is the way I look at it for college football to get exposure and to create intrigue in a college football playoff, other than just 4 teams that end up being blue bloods from the Big 12 or the SEC or the SEC and the SEC. You know what I mean? Like it's just, and then occasionally a Big 10 team that can win it. It's just not enough. 4 is not enough. And this is coming from a Michigan State fan whose team was there in the very first playoff, and we got waxed by Alabama in basically the first playoff game that was ever played. We lost like 35-0, but it was, just add more intrigue, more teams, more fan bases, more conferences, and it's more excitement for all the college football fans out there.
All right, Chris, I'm going to let you go, man. It's late. I appreciate you jumping on with me. We're going to do this a lot more. I got this all set up now, so we're going to be ready. You already know, guys, the regular show is every single Wednesday night on Gorilla Cross Radio, 9 p.m. West Coast time. We go live, myself, Jose V, and EMB. We get Chris Winn on there all the time as well. He's a regular on the show, so you can catch him on there. You can catch him on KDON with Ken Thompson, SportsX Radio, The Vegas Take, Fox Sports Radio out here with Tim Unglesby, Tom Bard Sports on Heatwave Sports. And, of course, you can catch him on Straight Bet Sports all the time with us whenever we get a chance to get him in. Whenever he's not working his nightly gig there on Wednesday nights, we try to get him in. But, Chris, I appreciate you, my man. Enjoy the Monday night game tomorrow as well. We'll see what the college football craziness is all about coming up. But I appreciate you, my man, and we'll be talking shortly. Have yourself a great night. To everyone that watched and chimed in, Goose Thomas, appreciate you. Till next time, fuck it. Don't care. Let's do it. We'll do it again. Peace.